Wilton Manors shows a social rift as two competitive events celebrate Black History Month. Sometimes two halves don't make a whole, and that is clearly evident after efforts to celebrate Black History Month in Wilton Manors ended in a schism driven by organizational issues and accusations of a lack of financial transparency. In this week's SFGN, online and on stands tomorrow, I look at how plans for one great event ended up being two underperforming events, from organizational issues like not knowing you can't serve alcohol at an elementary school park to an inability of planners to get for planners of the fundraiser to get along. Nothing ever quite gelled. This past weekend, I, along with my colleague Al Ferguson, attended both. The main event had a DJ, soul food, and a proclamation from Wilton Manors marking the occasion. But there was no real program where any real history or culture was highlighted. The other event had the field day activity set up, part of the Cookout spirit and tradition. But they didn't have people. We stopped by at 1 when they were still setting up, and again around 4, and none of the dozen or so people were engaged in the fun part of field day. In the end, both events came up short, and the community of Wilton Manors lost an opportunity to come together to support and learn from our LGBTQ+ Black brothers and sisters.
That's disappointing. You know, I was really in favor of the event. I actually had planned on attending and had a family matter that came up and I couldn't make it. But you know, this is not uncommon in our own community of kind of, you know, having territorial issues. And I think it just highlights the fact that, you know, there's all these other forces working against us, whether it's in the you know, for people of color or LGBTQ people. We need to come together and we need to find ways to build bridges with our organizations and common ground to really highlight these events, because we shouldn't be competing.
No, and as you said, others are already working so hard to divide us that now more than ever we need to be united, show united face.
You know, we're in a situation where I think interesting, because like in what we just talked about in Don't Say Gay, the first step to improve the situation in our community is to talk about it and have vigorous debate and conversation, even if it's not the words or intents that you would like to hear. The counterintuitive nature of your acceptance is probably beneficial for all of us. I think one of the points, John, I applaud South Florida Gay News for handling this story in the way that they're doing, because it's important for our community. And I think it is an interesting situation that we've got to address in 2022 head on. The L in our community frequently separates from the G, and the G in our community frequently separates from the T. And we have race issues. There's been conversation about race in some of our clubs in Wilton Manors, and this is another implementation, even in the Black community, of a separation of differences, of turf protection. We first and foremost, if we're going to ever try to solve these problems, to unite like we're all saying we should, we have to talk about why is this happening? And what do we think about it? And what are we going to do to stop it? And what are we going to do to change it? And then turn our attention to our real enemies, which are not in our own community. LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBT